This is Charlotte Reed reporting live from Clearwater Beach, where an unidentified... Just kidding, I'm not real.
Aaron, good to see you.
Hey, Tony, what's up?
Not too much. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been busy with life, but busy with kind of keeping myself in the squid world, which is always a good time. I've been recently really kind of fascinated with the variety of different bioluminescent organs in the animal kingdom and in cephalopods. And so I thought I would work on an article for TONMO that talks about bioluminescent organs in cephalopods. So
awesome.
That's what I've been writing in my spare time.
That's great. Now we talked about bioluminescence in episode 12, I want to say it was, where you were the guest, and we were talking about the light organs and how, in the case of glass squid, they kind of use them strategically to make them even more invisible than they are, if that's possible, right? Like to show kind of little spots of light as if their backdrop was truly invisible to any creatures underneath that may pose a danger to them, right?
Yeah. And that conversation was kind of the springboard for this. And I started thinking about how other octopus and squid use those light organs in different ways. And so that sent me down a rabbit hole. And that's how we got to where we are now.
A squid hole, if you will.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's been great. So I started off kind of looking at different ways that cephalopods show light on their bodies, I guess you could say. And kind of the first one that came to my mind was the firefly squid, because their bodies are covered in thousands of tiny little photophores. And at certain times of the year, as I've found out while doing my research, they have a mass spawning events in coastal areas of Japan. And so there's these amazing pictures of all of these kind of glowing squid in the water and kind of washing up on the shore. And it's a big event for the locals as well. And so, that was kind of my starting point when I started looking at this, and it was beautiful to see these photos. And then I kind of went into some of the weirder stuff, which I'm looking at right now as I kind of finalize all of the different points of this article that I'm going to be chatting about.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to that. I don't want to, get too far ahead of it. I'll let you author it, and then maybe we can chat about it once it's produced and get into the details of what you're gonna share with us there. No is a fine answer, Aaron, but did you watch the Octopodcast episode 13 where we talked about the 25th anniversary of TONMO?
No is the answer that I'm going to give you, Tony. I wish that I have, and now that you've mentioned it, I do remember that popping up on my emails or something like that.
It's 12 minutes that you'll never get back. I spent a little bit of time talking about our guidelines in our cephalopod care ethics statement. But what I said in the Octopodcast, which you would know by now if you had actually watched it, but instead you have to hear this whole preamble to even understand what I'm talking about. But what I said was that I need to iterate on the draft of that and get input from staff as it relates to AI. And you and I haven't talked about this. I don't know how you feel about this topic.
I have a position on that. And that's only because, as I've been writing this article, I've been trying to find like photos to include to help illustrate the points, because those are really helpful. And I'm finding for the first time that the amount of kind of AI generated images when I'm looking for stuff on Google image search is now making that a whole lot more challenging. I mean, the last time that I was writing articles and making presentations and all of that for schooling, that was pre-2020. AI generated images weren't really a thing, and I didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
But now, my goodness, like I'm having to go through all of my search results with a fine-tooth comb going, is this real?
Yeah. And, a lot of it is garbage, right? Like you'll see it and you'll immediately be like, that's ridiculous. That is clearly not an octopus. And I will put up on the screen like a couple of examples that I've seen. And I've had friends send me some images and videos like, wow, did you see this? And I'm like, now, I'm not a marine biologist or anything like that, but I've been looking at octopuses for many years, and some of the stuff is clearly not actual cephalopods, but it underscores the point. We know it's only getting better, and we see it getting better with every release. I don't remember the names of all the different platforms. Not really important. I think the point is that this is obviously like a very quickly evolving technology. This is, by many accounts, the most consequential technology that we've had since the dawn of the internet. I heard somebody say yesterday it's the most consequential since the mobile phone. I suppose he meant the smartphone. And hard to disagree. So TONMO has a partnership with Xpertloop, and we talk about effective ways to integrate and implement the Xpertloop tool. And for those who don't know, let me just take a moment and explain what Xpertloop is. So what Xpertloop does is they offer solutions for content creators, like book authors or what have you, or forum owners such as myself, and they will ingest the content and will offer your audience a service where you can work directly with Xpertloop to ask it questions and get information that is infused with the knowledge of, in our case, 25 years of cephalopod conversations. They're great to work with, and there are a lot of ideas there. At a very high level, we just touched on, the obvious considerations as it relates to images, which can dupe us. We can be duped by the technology that's being put forth, and it's increasingly easy to create content that looks very real and sounds very real, and that relates to video and images, but also written word. So there are going to be many aspects to this policy. And the easy part, that's why I say, like, I'm making it harder than it needs to be. The easy thing is the policy is going to be like, essentially, you cannot put AI content forward without disclosing what it is, or acknowledging that AI was leveraged in the creation of that content. But like that all requires that everybody is on their best behavior, and if nothing else, that's guideline number one. At the same time, I'm not going to prohibit the use of AI, of course, as evidenced through my partnership with Xpertloop. I think that it's an immovable force. I think that AI is here to stay. It's not going to go away.
It is. That's true.
And so we have to find ways to work with it. My vision is that people should be able to, in a public way, converse with AI. I do think it's important for us to have a clear position on what our guidance is for the TONMO community as it relates to leveraging AI to help demystify cephalopods, because that's the mission statement for TONMO.
That's the point,
right? We want to help everyone better understand cephalopods. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we have the right guardrails put in place, or at least a common understanding, a touchstone that everyone in the community understands that this is how AI will be used and is supposed to be used. And these are some examples of ways that we won't tolerate AI usage in our forums. Anyway, those are my raw thoughts so far.
And I think as you've said, it's here to stay, and it is going to be very beneficial for helping to provide information for people, like as you've kind of incorporated the AI, or you've looked at the potential for the AI for TONMO. I mean, you've gotten myself and some of the other staff members to test it out a little bit, and I'm going to be honest, I'm very skeptical about AI, as I think I've kind of already noted, and I tried to stump it, and I got to say, it did a good job of answering my tricky questions in a way that made sense. And I asked it some very specific things, and sometimes it was able to give me an answer that was accurate, and sometimes it gave me kind of a general answer that Wikipedia would have given me, and I went, okay, you probably just got that from Wikipedia. So, I think as it continues to develop, that it can be very, very helpful. And I think it will be beneficial for people who come to TONMO and just want to know very general information about the specific, the giant squid is probably going to be one that draws a lot of people to Tonmo. And AI is going to be really great for that. It'll give them the kind of the takeaway messages and the important points in a way that people can understand.
Yeah, and which is hugely important. But I definitely I want to go deeper on this notion as it relates to science in general. But before we go there, so I use AI for cooking as an example, and you were touching on this where it will give garbage information. And so an example is where like I'd give it a list of all the ingredients I have in the fridge, or I've got like a bunch of stuff that I'm like, okay, I think I can make a couple of different meals out of this, but I need some inspiration. The response back was to create this monstrosity of a dish that incorporated everything. And I'm like, no, you don't have to use mayo and soy sauce and onion flakes. That doesn't all have to be in the same dish. So prompts are important, but the point is that prompts are made by humans, and we're not always going to get it right. And the problem that you're touching on, like, because as you said, you were kind of against it, in principle,
I'm
or
cautious.
cautious is a better word. Yes, right. I agree with you. You were cautious for good reason, because I'm not sure it's best to say, hey, TONMO has this AI feature, go into your booth and close the door behind you, and now use it to learn, talk with it however you want, and get the information you want. I think it should be more transparent than that, just like our forums are, and have always been. And we have direct messages, if we want to extend this metaphor a bit, where, and this happens a lot, where members will go and speak one-on-one with other TONMO members outside of the forums, which is, good and interesting, and there's a place for that. So I think AI probably falls into the same category. But to demystify all of this in and of itself, I think it's important to say, number one, okay, these are our guidelines. Here's how we use AI. Here's how we're going to implement it. Here's what it can do for you. Here's how you can use it on the forums and share information. And we can do joint research as a community, what have you. And by the way, through my partnership with Xpertloop, we can go very, very deep in customizing how it interfaces with us. I mean, we can give it very specific instructions, and we can give it very specific, tranches of data to the degree we have it, and we want to do that. But it's already infused with all of TONMO's community conversation.
It knows all about me? Oh no, that's scary.
Public, not your direct messages, right? Or even your profile information, nothing like that. Just the public, everything that Google has had for years in terms of, generating a search result. Xpertloop has that as well. And Xpertloop leverages all these other AI engines like Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity, whatever. And we can choose which one. I can choose which engine. I think right now I'm using ChatGPT, but I experiment with a couple others. So again, these are all configurations that I can make. And again, if for those watching, if there's anybody interested in partnering with me, on the implementation of this, I'm open to collaborate on this. And Aaron, you're and staff, you've all been really helpful in this so far as well. But again, want to just keep this open and accessible and community oriented, because I'm not inclined to have this be something that is not transparent. That's for sure. The idea is it's a powerful tool for cephalopod enthusiasts, and I'm happy to partner with anybody who wants to join me in that endeavor.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you're kind of publicly announcing the importance of the transparency, because that's kind of, I think that's where all of my cynicism and cautiousness comes from, is that I can see a worst case scenario where we start incorporating AI information in ways that I find kind of scary. Like you had mentioned using AI in science. And I know that if you are a university student right now, your reports are going through Chat GPT. I get that. I understand that lots of people are doing it. And it's kind of the way that academia is progressing. But I think where I start to get a bit concerned is how far will that go? There's been such a push to ensure that when scientific research is coming out, that it's peer reviewed, and that we are ticking all of the boxes to make sure that the information has been done using appropriate research and in using the scientific method in a respectful way. And so I'm worried that we're going to start going beyond like, oh, check my paragraph to make sure that the grammar is fine. And is there a way that I could rephrase this to make it sound more scientific? And that we're going to start using AI as part of like the results and the methods. And that's where I start to get worried.
And I respect that tremendously. I think you're obviously spot on about that concern, and you have a lot deeper hands-on experience on this than I do. I have to say, this reminds me explicitly of, and I don't think I covered this in the last Octopodcast that you didn't watch, but
We're just gonna keep driving that in.
really, honestly, it's
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing over my lunch break today.
this really strikes me because when TONMO started in the year 2000, and I was also trying to get on that Mollusk Net news group back in the day.
Okay.
You weren't allowed to communicate on it unless you could prove to the moderators that you had a PhD or you were in pursuit of a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you met that criteria, because I wanted to get in, because I just thought cephalopods were cool, but I had no experience with it. And I wasn't allowed in. And it's one of the reasons why TONMO had success was because, and this is what many scientists explained to me, was, hey, you have no idea that we, like the information that TONMO provides through hobbyists and laypersons and just people enthusiastically talking about cephalopods and asking questions, this is really helpful for us because we can go in as experts and we can help demystify and help steer the conversation, help get them interested in our research, but also learn from them in terms of like, the hobbyists and people who are keeping cephalopods in their home. So that was like a whole renaissance that really wasn't existing until the internet matured to the degree where we could have like online communities and like some, renegade like myself was like, well, you don't have to be a scientist to talk about octopuses or squid or cephalopods. Just come to TONMO.com and we'll talk about it. I don't care who you are. So AI is that now, right? Like, so a bunch of technologists just opened up ChatGPT a couple of years ago and said, have at it and see what you come up with. You can only imagine what they see on the other side of what gets input into their systems. But as it relates to cephalopods, I'm really sensitive to what you said, and I do think it's important. That's why and transparency is hard because it makes it, there's accountability with it, meaning, if you're going to put it out there, you have to kind of stand by it. You have to be able to answer to it. You have to speak to it. You have to respond to questions about it or provide clarifications. But I don't know, to me, that's the only way you create and do things and collaborate. So I do want to make that be part of the process on TONMO at least. Now, when you talk about like students or scientists for that matter, leveraging AI to create content because they really don't want to have to write these 8 paragraphs. They just want to hit the copy paste icon and be done with it. And again, I think so what I want to get at in this part of the conversation, Aaron, is how will we tell? And that's the issue, right? Like, so when somebody comes to you in 2 years' time, Aaron, and says, hey, I got this amazing footage of a glass squid with new bioluminescence, it's like what is this organ?
Yeah.
And talking about rabbit holes or squid holes or whatever, you'll be like, oh my gosh, what is that? And so we're going to have to, to your point about peer review, and understanding the source. I mean, I think that's what will always come down to. So understanding like the community of scientists and experts in a particular field, I think is paramount. These are all questions that we're going to have to answer to soon. And as far as cephalopods are concerned, I think we, TONMO, are well positioned to like address these concerns. And I'm very happy to be able to talk about this with you, Dr. Boyd Evans, because I think it's an important topic in this space.
Yeah, I hope that it progresses in a way where it continues to be useful, and that people do have accountability for it. I mean, of course, we want the best for what's going to happen in the future. I will say, you had mentioned that someone's going to send me, a video of a glass squid with new organs. I had someone send me a picture of an AI octopus. Octopus, I think, is probably the best way to put that. And said, "Hey, is this a new glass squid? It looks like it might be a glass squid." And I went, "Well, I've never seen any squid or octopus that have tentacles growing out of their nose."
Yeah.
And it was literally like a glass squid with a human nose and then like little tentacles coming out of it. And I went, "Well, that's weird, but also, why did you send me this?" So then I had to have a chat with that friend about AI art. Octopus do not have noses.
Yeah, and thankfully, as I mentioned earlier, they're pretty easy just to spot now. But I'm unsure what's going to happen when we get to a place where somebody will be able to create this very podcast that you and I are speaking on now, and have us, talking about, dinosaurs instead of cephalopods.
Yeah.
And, the dinosaur news magazine online.
It's okay. I'll be equally as opinionated in that one too.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the reason that they're easier to spot at this moment is because cephalopods they're just built weird. When you look at where AI is messing up, it's because it gives like 6 fingers on the hand or something like that.
Right.
And it's just those little details of things that confuse the AI programming. And I feel like cephalopods just have a lot of those things. Like they could get a general shape of an octopus, but then it puts the suckers on the wrong side of the arm, or the eyes are the wrong way around, or something like that. And I think that's why, when I see AI of cephalopods and it's got a human nose or something like that, it's like, oh yes, AI still hasn't quite figured out squid and octopus because they're just weird. But it'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, there's the whole notion of the term is hallucination, right? Like, so AI will, when they don't know something. Now, I'm talking about in the text world, not in the image world. When you ask AI something that is nuanced, or you give it a very specific prompt, and they don't know the answer, they will fill it in with what it thinks is the right answer, based on whatever inferences it's making, based on the way its logic is built and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's specific settings, which I forget all the terms of it when I looked into it a couple of years ago. But as it relates to TONMO's use of Xpertloop, I can attenuate that, right? Like I can tell the system to have a very low tolerance for information that it doesn't know. Like don't fill in the blank if you don't know it. Don't make it up. I can even go as far as to be like, if you haven't heard about it on TONMO, it doesn't exist. Like you must, all of your responses must be based only on what you've learned on TONMO, which I haven't even experimented with it, because most of our stuff is like, how many London buses is a giant squid? But
oh golly, I can't wait for that. How big is a giant squid? It's 3.4 London buses.
The instruction as it stands today, for what it's worth, is leverage TONMO first, cite your, provide links back to TONMO when you reference it, and or you want to drive more conversation to those threads for the user who's asking. But if it's not covered in TONMO, then just use your general AI knowledge and, help the user out, which, like as if they were going directly to ChatGPT or whatever.
What would be
Um,
really
yeah.
interesting, and I don't know if AI can do this yet, I'm sure we'll be able to do it in the future, is when the AI didn't know the answer, if it had a database where it said, DM this user, and they might be able to answer your
Oh,
questions in more detail.
yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and I can absolutely do that very easily, actually, based on
Oh,
subject matter. So if somebody asks about glass squid, for example, I can have them go to you. But if they ask about, you know, BIMAC care, I can have them go to whoever from the community. So the tool set that I have access to is actually very robust. And it's just a matter of focus and time. But so that's what I will be engaging with you on offline, not on a live podcast, Aaron, but I will be asking you for input, as I work to develop this. It's probably going to take time and balls in my court to get something going there. I had no intention of talking with you about this today. That is not a lie. So we had our meeting scheduled, and I'm glad we got to tease your article that's coming soon, and we will go deep on that once it's ready to be published. On the day it's published or whatever, we'll package it like a media package. It'll be like, okay, the article goes live and the Octopodcast about it goes live. All right, Aaron, great catching up with you on this topic. More to come on it, obviously. But this is all in the spirit of transparency. People get to see the sausage making, or the stuffed calamari making, maybe is a way to put it, while it's in process. But great to catch up with you. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, and keep an eye on TONMO for an upcoming article about beautiful bioluminescence in cephalopods.
I will send out a newsletter when it happens. I can't wait to see it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Aaron. Talk
See you
soon.
later, Tony.
See ya.